this playoff game, which was rather close, and the final score was 96-93. Again, this was the last game that I talked about before in the first segment. That was the only game that had both teams end in triple digits, and had both teams score 100 points or 100 plus points. In this game, neither of those teams ended up doing that. This seems like a rather 90s scoreboard when you look at it. And the Mavericks, the starting lineup, as a whole, they scored rather well compared to the Clippers starting lineup, where the real highlight for the Clippers and the real difference was in the bench, even though there wasn't really there wasn't that much of a difference. It was only a 3-point difference coming off of the bench between the Mavericks and the Clippers. And the Clippers ended up being outscored by the Mavericks starters. And the Mavericks starters scored 83 points in total compared to the Clippers' 77 points. And Luka ended the game with 32 points, 9 assists, and 6 rebounds. Kyrie ended the game with 23 points, 3 assists, and 6 rebounds. PJ Washington ended the game with 18 points, and Derrick Jones Jr. ended the game with 10 points and 7 rebounds. Daniel Gafford ended the game with 0 points. He only played 9 minutes, however, and Maxi Kleber ended the game with 6 points, and that was basically it for the scoring, aside from Derek Lively, who ended the game with 7 points. And the offense for the Mavericks, it was really stagnant without Luka or Kyrie having the ball. And that's really the biggest problem that this team has. Whenever Luka and Kyrie don't have the ball, the offense is really slow, it's really bad, and it's really painful to watch. It's really sluggish to the point where it's no other player can seem to create an open shot for the team aside from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. And when they both have to sit out, that just puts your offense on pause completely. So it's really difficult to play the game when those players sit out. And it's you sort of have to time their minutes properly so that way they could end up playing together. Then one player could sit out, then the other player could play, then the other player could sit out, and then the other player could play, and then keep going. Potentially they play together in the final minutes, which is the ideal situation, but there is supposed to be an expected time where they sit out, and when you're the Dallas Mavericks, you really can't afford that. But luckily for them, they were able to prevail in this game despite the Clippers having Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard wasn't a major factor. He ended the game with 15 points, played 35 minutes, and obviously when you're someone like Kawhi Leonard, you're expected to get a lot more production from him in the postseason than you are just 15 points. I mean, usually he's 30-point per game scorer in the postseason, and here he is only scoring 15, which is definitely hurting the team. Now, James Harden, he finished playing 42 minutes and scored 22 points and 8 assists, along with 6 rebounds. Paul George ended the game with 22 points as well, and 4 assists, along with 2 rebounds. Ivica Zubac ended the game with 13 points and 12 rebounds. And Terrence Mann ended the game with only 5 points. Russell Westbrook only ended the game with 7 points and 9 rebounds, along with 3 assists. And that was Norman Powell ended with 6 points, but again, that was basically it in terms of all of the scoring coming in from the Clippers. It was just the starting lineup. And Kawhi Leonard going 7 for 17 from the field is not helping the team whatsoever. So the fact that this loss was sort of on Kawhi Leonard, he definitely, with him, or even with either James Harden or Paul George, or either of them stepping up in this game just a little bit, they could have won this game. But unfortunately, the Mavericks, they ended up coming out on top with And now the fact that the Mavericks stole this game, they're going into Dallas with a tied series where they're expected to play 2 home games, and this would be their ideal chance to take a big lead in the series, it was the same thing that I was talking about with the Pacers, and it's basically going to be the same thing that I'm talking about with the Mavericks in this matchup as well. They go into this series tied, and now they're expected to play 2 home games. And those 2 home games are probably going to be the biggest difference maker when we're talking about these playoffs, because then they could go up 3-1 in the series, which is, again, it's a lead that the Clippers would not want to put themselves in that kind of deficit. So it's unfortunate that the Clippers couldn't come out on top of this game and make the series 2-0 before going to Dallas, so that way they sort of have that advantage and that extra game that they could fall back on. But now they're expected to steal a game, which is really difficult when you're going up against Luka and that hostile crowd, and Kyrie Irving as well, where that's the kind of environment where those type of players would thrive in, because now they have the ultimate green light to take any kind of shot that they want, and now that they have a crowd behind them, they have the confidence to make that kind of shot. And again, home court advantage, it's really huge in the postseason, and it's really unfortunate that the Clippers couldn't take advantage of that, especially that now that they have Kawhi Leonard back in the rotation, and they really couldn't take advantage of him. And Ivica Zubac did not play well in this game either. He shot 5 of 12 from the field. Norman Powell did not play well either, shot 2 for 10, and neither did Russell Westbrook. He shot 2 for 9. So there were a lot of other players in this game that really costed the Clippers in points, and if they would have hit just a couple more shots, then the game would have swung in the Clippers' favor. So the Mavericks, they sort of got lucky that the Clippers didn't really have many players able to score as many points as Luka or Kyrie or the rest of the starting lineup, because again, being able to have Luka on your team drop 32 points is very, very valuable, and Kyrie just behind him dropping 23, another very valuable scorer. So that alleviates a lot of pressure from the rest of the team and the rest of the players, thus allowing them to sort of play a lot better in these postseason matchups. So that's why P.J. Washington was able to shoot 5 for 10 from the field and get 18 points. Derek Jones Jr. was able to shoot 4 of 6 for 10 points as well. And they all just shot much better than this team. They ended up shooting 42% from 3 compared to the Clippers that ended up shooting 26% from 3, 8 for 30 from three-pointer, which was really the biggest difference maker between this team and the scoring. So that's sort of why the Mavericks held that advantage, because of their better shooting. But even with their better shooting, the score was really, really close. Like, the final score was 96-93. And it was like, even with this terrible shooting coming in from the Clippers, they were still able to make this game a little bit competitive. And obviously, like, it's really going to have you thinking, like, imagine if they just could have hit a few more shots. Like, if they would have hit a few more shots, then this game would have really looked like, I really think this game could have gone either way, because, like, neither team seemed to be hitting either shot. It was really just miss after miss after miss for the Clippers, as well as for most of the Mavericks, aside from Luka. So it was like, for those who say that, like, Luka needs to play a little bit more off the ball, like, when you see Kleber, DJJ, And anyone else but Kyrie on the Mavericks, when you see them attempt to do something with the ball, do you really think that they could handle controlling like an offense? Like, when you see anyone other than Luka or Kyrie handle the ball, do you really think that they can handle the offense for at least 10 minutes? Because that's not the impression that I got from anyone on that team. So Luka has to be the ball carrier most of the time, or Kyrie has to be the ball handler most of the time. Otherwise, the offense isn't going to go anywhere for this team. So a few of Luka's plays was actually the reason why this team ended up winning in the end. And obviously, like I said, the 3-point difference was a very major flaw in the Clippers and their offense. But the Mavs went on a 12-0 run in the fourth, which got them the lead. And they were able to keep it until the end of this game, which obviously is being able to win and go into the playoffs getting ready to play at home court is a huge advantage that not many teams can really cherish, especially now in these postseasons. So they're definitely going to take advantage of that. But that's basically all I have for this second segment, and with that we are out of time. So now I will go ahead and go into the third segment, where I talk about the Timberwolves and how they were able to defend home court against the Phoenix Suns, who have been struggling recently in these previous games, and I will get much more into detail after this short break.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.